Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to break down the art of casual conversation. How to turn that kind of awkward silence into a real connection. We're going to be using an amazing guide full of English phrases perfect for everyday chats.
So let's start with a feeling I think we all know way too well. That little spike of anxiety right before you have to talk to someone. It could be at a party or just, waiting for the coffee to brew at work. And that one question just echoes in your head. What am I even going to say? It can be pretty nerve-wracking, right?
Well, that's small talk. And look, while the topics themselves, like the weather or the weekend, might seem a little unimportant, its job is absolutely critical. In a lot of cultures, it's the go-to tool for just easing into a conversation, building a bit of trust, and making a genuine connection. Think of it like the warm-up before the main event.
Okay, let's really get into it. The very first step to getting better at small talk is to seriously upgrade our opening lines. We've got to move past those classic questions that just lead to conversational dead ends. I mean, just look at the shift in energy here. How are you? Almost always gets you a one-word answer. Fine. And that's it. Conversation over. But asking something like, what have you been up to lately? Well, that's an open invitation. It's asking for a little story, a bit of detail, and it shows you're actually curious. So, what do you say when someone asks you? Well, here are some really great positive options. I've been keeping busy is just perfect. But the real secret here, the thing that makes all of these work, is how they pass the conversation right back. That is how you keep the ball rolling. And here's a really crucial point. If you remember something specific about the other person, use it. Asking, hey, how was your trip, instead of something generic, shows that you actually listen and that you care. It just makes the conversation feel personal and important right from the get-go. Okay, now let's switch gears and see how all this plays out in a professional setting. Because small talk at work, it's not just about being friendly. It's about building that rapport that makes working together, collaborating on projects so much easier and smoother. Really, the number one key to making conversation with colleagues easier is to find some common ground. It could be a shared interest, sure, but what's even easier? A shared experience. And what do you all have in common every single day? The workday itself. That's your common ground, right there. And this is a perfect example of how you can connect just based on the vibe of the office. If everyone's rushing around, a comment like, wow, we're really under the pump today, creates this instant bond over that shared stress. And it works the other way too. If things are slow, saying, it's been kind of dead, hasn't it? Is just a simple way of saying, hey, we're in this together. So, what about that colleague you see all the time but have never actually spoken to? Here's a super simple script. Just start by acknowledging you haven't really met, and then depending on their answer, if they're new or if they've been there a while, you have the perfect follow-up question ready to go. It's a really smooth, totally low-pressure way to break the ice. All right, now for the classics. These are your safe, reliable, go-to topics that work in pretty much any situation, with anyone. You should think of these as your small talk safety net. Seriously, never ever underestimate the power of the weather. I know it sounds like a cliche, but it just works. Why? Because it's something everyone in that location is experiencing together right now. It is the ultimate neutral ground for starting a conversation. And here is a total pro tip. Don't just talk about the weather, use the weather as a bridge. See, the weather isn't the point of the conversation, it's the invitation. A simple comment about the weekend forecast is the perfect, skillful pivot to a more personal question, like what they've got planned. It's such a seamless transition from just an observation to a real conversation. Asking about somebody's free time is such a great way to find out what they're actually into, their personality. But the key here isn't just to ask the question. It's to actually listen to their answer and then ask a follow-up. If they say they went hiking, ask them where. If they saw a movie, ask if it was any good. That's how you show you're really paying attention. Okay, so we've just covered a ton of great phrases, but, knowing them and actually using them are two totally different things. So how do you start putting this into practice without feeling completely overwhelmed? Well, here's your action plan. First things first, please do not try to memorize everything on this list. That is a recipe for disaster. The goal here isn't to become a small talk robot. Just pick, say, 5 to 8 phrases, the ones that feel the most natural to you, the ones that will be most useful in your life. Start small and stay focused. And here's the method for building real confidence. So, After you pick your phrases, actually write them down in a little practice conversation. Then, and this part is key, say them out loud. To yourself, to your pet, in the mirror, whatever. This builds muscle memory, so when you finally use them in a real, low-stakes conversation, they're going to feel so much more natural.
And look, if you only remember one thing from all of this, let it be this right here. The golden rule of small talk is to keep the conversation going. And ending your thought with a simple, how about you, or and you, is the absolute easiest, most effective way to make sure the conversation doesn't just fizzle out. It's a tiny habit that makes a huge difference.
So there you have it. That's your toolkit for really mastering small talk. The learning part is done. The only thing left to do is to pick one of these phrases, take one small step out of your comfort zone, and just give it a try. So which one are you going to try first?